Welcome, everybody, to the Really True Sports Network Survive in Advance. I'm your co-host, Mike Goodpaster, with Steve Risley today. We're going to preview the Masters preview. And real quick, yes, Steve is also a guest host before he complains that I didn't call him that. But before we get started, make sure if you want to bet on the Masters Golf Tournament, you go to BetMGM for the top sportsbook for betting on it. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the link in the description down below to go ahead to BetMGM. All right, Steve, would you like to introduce our guest today? I know he's a friend of yours, and you always get excited when we do anything golf-related on the show.
Yeah, a man I've known for a better part of 30 years. Used to watch his dogs when he'd go gallivanting off the golf tournaments to play. Founding member of the Golf Channel, the man who was on the air when the switch was flipped in 1995, was it, Brian?
Yeah.
1995, along with Linda Cardwell, wasn't it?
Yes, she unfortunately passed
away recently, very sadly, yes. But Brian Hammons, a local product from Butler University, Anderson, Indiana. And now, Brian, what's the name of your golf company? Fairways and Greens? Or
well, my production company is called Shortgrass Media. And for those that watched Golf Central when I was hosting it, they understand the naming of it.
Just keep it Fairways and Greens.
All right. So let's start off with this. With the Masters coming up, I think it's safe to say it's probably the biggest tournament. Augusta is iconic. We've got Rory McIlroy. To me, is the big question because he's looking to complete a career Grand Slam. Do you like his chances here, Brian?
Well, yeah, but people have been waiting for him to finish that Grand Slam for several years now. It's been a long time.
10 years.
Yeah, since he's won a major. So, I think he's the favorite as far as the people want to see Rory win the Masters, complete the Grand Slam. He's a good guy. He's really good for the game. But, I mean, he's had plenty of opportunities and hasn't performed well in majors recently. So we'll see. Is he the betting favorite? He's got to be in the top three, I would think.
Yeah, and I would think the favorite right now has to be Scotty Scheffler. And, I mean, he won the green jacket in 2022. He's twice already won this. What's he won? Like 2 of his last 3. So he's the hottest guy on the tour right now, isn't he?
No, there's no question. And, he's certainly the favorite, the odds-on favorite to win this week. But the question always comes down, is he going to putt well enough? That's always been his downfall. But recently, he's using a different putter. He's worked with some different coaches, and he's putting great. And if he can do that, good luck beating him this week.
Right. Well, a little fun fact about Scotty Scheffler. I was reading in the paper the other day that so far this year, Rory McIlroy's made $789,000. Scotty's caddies made $850,000.
Yeah,
Scotty's caddies made more money this year than Rory McIlroy has. Now,
yeah, Scotty's caddy doesn't have that $20 million a year from Nike coming in or TaylorMade coming in.
Yeah. Now, I gotta say that my stock in Rory kind of fell just a little. I was a Rory fan, but this whole thing between Liv and the PGA and Rory's hard stance on that. And he's softening up big time right now. I'm sure we'll get into talking about it because I think that they're seeing a merger coming, and some of these guys that didn't go are all of a sudden potentially losing out on some big money. We'll cover that toward the end. Let's stick with the tournament real quick and get it done. But I think Scheffler has to be on paper the favorite. I'll tell you the guy that I like, Mike, is I like Brooks Koepka. I think this guy is just a rock solid player. He's done well, finished second or third in the last 2 or 3 Masters. Kind of the poster child for tournament or for major play for Live Golf. He's not what we would call their most productive player or day in, day out on the Live Tour. However, when it gets to be tournament time, he's 2 years removed, Brian, from winning the PGA. I think he was the first Live golfer to win.
That was last year. That was just last year.
Last year. So
people are. It's funny when people question these Live players. There's 13 of them in the field this year.
7 of them are Masters champions.
Right. But people say, well, you really don't know how they're going to perform because they haven't been playing, truly championship golf coming in. But it certainly didn't bother Koepka last year. He finished second at the Masters and then won the next major at the PGA Championship. So, Koepka's a great pick. You can't out Cam Smith and Bryson DeChambeau. Dustin Johnson's a Masters champion. So any of those 13 live golf players could win this week.
Yeah. And going back to the other players too, the other guy I like, Brian, is Wyndham Clark. Although hard to believe, Wyndham's ranked in the top 10 in world rankings, the defending U.S. Open champion, and this is his first appearance at Augusta National. He's never played the tournament before, never played Augusta, so I think that's going to work against him a little bit, not having the course knowledge. But certainly LACC is a very formidable challenge. Hell, I can't get on the course, so it's got to be. Where are you when I need you? Every decent golf course I've played in the world, it's because Brian has snuck me on. So
well, and that brings us to Joseph Spillman, who makes the comment that Steve can't putt. I think he means putt there, but also I know Joseph, I think it's from VV, Indiana, so spelling's not a big thing down there. But Brian, can Steve putt? Because Steve's told me he was a great golfer. He tells everybody that on the show all the time.
At one time, Steve was a good player, but that's been a few years ago. You qualified for the Indiana Open or the Indiana Am?
I qualified for the Indiana Open.
Yeah, you got to be a pretty good player to do that. So I'll give him some credit.
I qualified for the Indiana Open at Broadmoor Country Club. Proceeded to take a 10 on my first hole. My caddy quit. Lofton was caddying for me, Brian, and I scored a 10 on the first hole. I said, Mark, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. I feel kind of embarrassed. He dropped the bag and left. So I didn't quite break 90, but I didn't shoot 100. So anyway, tournament golf's a far world different than playing on a Saturday morning, and that's evident, Brian, by Scott Oak's 1 foot miss to win the Masters. What it was in 1993 or 4 when Faldo, I think, got the win when Hoke missed the 1 foot putt that would have kept him playing today. He'd still be playing today.
Like Bobby Jones said, there's golf and then there's tournament golf, and there's two completely different things.
Yeah. So, Brian, any changes to the golf course this year? I know they keep calling what they used to call tiger proofing the course. Any big changes to the course this year?
There might be, but if there are, I'm not aware of them.
Yeah, I couldn't find
they're always tinkering with Augusta National, which I may be in the minority, but I like the Masters better when they were making birdies and eagles everywhere, and the roars were all over the golf course, and you could hear a roar at 12 or in 13 or at 15, and you thought, oh, something happened there. Now it's more it's not a U.S. Open type setup now, but it's more that way than it used to be when, they didn't have you can't call it the rough, the first cut. But now that, they've grown the rough a little bit, didn't used to have it. I don't know. I just liked it better when guys were taking the charge on Sunday.
Yeah, that bows from like 1986. And when it used to be, the saying was the tournament doesn't start till the back nine on Sunday at Augusta. You know that phrase better than anybody does. But I remember Nicklaus coming through the back nine in 1986. And I was playing golf that day and had my VCR. Actually, those were the days of the VCRs. I had Betamax, so it shows you what little I knew about that. Although Beta was the preferred unit for you TV people, he just wasn't as viable because couldn't get as much tape time. The VHS tapes were longer. See, another little known fact. But I remember watching it, and you could be on the course. They weren't showing Nicklaus because he was making a run. They were showing, I think, was it Norman who was in the lead? Norman and somebody else were buying.
Yeah, Norman and
was it Ballesteros maybe?
Yeah, I know Norman was the one that kind of
Nicklaus had to beat.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you start hearing in the background, all these roars going left and right, and they kept saying, something's going on somewhere on the course, and they'd eventually cut to him. But that seems to have gone away, Brian, a little bit, to where by by Tiger proving the course. They made it a survival rather than an attack mode.
Right.
It used to be you attacked if you wanted to win, you attacked the back nine.
No, I agree.
You went for 13 or 15 and 2 no matter what. 12 or 16, you had to put close. 12, you needed to get it tight. You needed to go for the right side of the pin on 12. And those of you that follow golf know it. Brian, you know what I'm talking about. The par 3.
Sure.
You don't fire to the left on. But then Ben Hogan always said, if you hit it to the right side of the pin on Sunday on number 12, you've mishit your ball.
Well, if you want to get back to the Roars, just get Tiger in contention this week, which will be interesting to watch. I mean, because he hasn't physically been able to finish golf tournaments, and that's the hardest walk. You can't tell it on television, but that's the hardest walk in all of golf, Augusta National. There's a lot of undulations and elevation changes that you can't see on television. So, I know he's been on property. He's played some practice rounds. I don't know if he's played an 18-hole practice round yet. But can he make it 4? Can he make it 2 rounds? It's going to be interesting to see how much, how physically, if he's able to hold up, and if he is, how's he going to play? Because you just don't go to the Masters having not played for months and months and play well.
Hey, and his odds right now, Brian, are plus 12,500.
It's worth a couple bucks.
It's worth a $10 bet. So at plus 12,500, Steve, how much money would you make off a $10 bet?
I don't gamble, so I wouldn't have any idea.
I was trying to see if you could count. And the one thing about Tiger Woods is, with Tiger Woods, there's no doubt that his high Q at Augusta is higher than anybody else, and the swing's not the problem, but the walking 18 holes for what, 4 days in a row. That's probably going to be the issue. Is there a long shot here, Brian, that sticks out to you? Because the guy that sticks out to me maybe is Russell Henley, who's plus 6,000. He's had 3 top 5 finishes this season.
What's Ludwig Aberg's odds?
Let's see. Steve, do you know those odds?
No, I can pull them up though, real quick.
Pull them up, Steve.
Well, I mean, it's been well documented. The last player to win in his first start at Augusta National was Fuzzy Zoeller back in 1979. It just doesn't happen. Well, this is Aberg's first start at Augusta National, but he is a tremendously talented player. He's been playing well, so he might be worth a few shekels.
He's not even showing up on my report. Aberg. I've heard the name, but I agree with Brian in the sense that it's incredibly rare to come to this place on your first trip there, and when there are so many nuances of this golf course that until you get and played a few times, I mean, just the putting, the greens, the pond on number 11 affects most of the Amen corner because it starts at the beginning of Rays Creek, which messes with you for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That creek meanders all the way through. There's just all kinds of things. Hole number 12, Brian, what would you say would be a tougher hole? 17, and we've played them both. Well, no, we've not played. I've not played Augusta.
I haven't either.
You haven't you played?
No.
Oh, that's right. Forget it. Here's Brian. Okay, here's my buddy. He goes for how many years were you at the Masters?
Several.
Several. And what they do is on the Monday after, they have a lottery for the media. They put their name in a hat. Brian's name's been drawn more than one time.
No. It was drawn the first time I was there.
Yeah, but Lisa needed him home to go grocery shopping.
No, they drew my name, and I hadn't played for months. I didn't have my clubs. My clubs weren't there. I was there to work.
I don't care.
So I figured,
go to Golf Supreme and buy a set.
I figured, I'll have another opportunity to play. I'm not going to do it this year. Shoot $1 million.
How'd that work out for you?
Not so well. And I'm not losing any sleep over it.
What's a harder hole, Brian? Number 12 at Augusta or number 17 at Sawgrass?
Well, I would say 12 at Augusta.
Yeah, I would say too.
But it depends on the condition. If it's soft, 12 will play a lot easier. But they've got that sub air system that it's hard to get it soft because they just suck the water out of the greens. But
Yeah,
when you get to 12 at Augusta National, you're in contention. You're puckering like that.
Yeah, like I said, if you hit it right at the pin on Sunday on number 12, you've hit your shot. Nobody's going right, because that's Freddie Couples is the only man ever to survive that
and
shot.
How that ball stopped on the bank without rolling into Race Creek is
divine intervention. So, yeah, you talk about maintenance on the course. I just read this morning, I was reading up on some fun facts about the course, that during the tournament, they don't repair divots on the tee boxes. They replace them. They actually have a machine that comes out, and they have freshly grown grass. They come in at the end of the day, and they actually just cut out all of the divots and take a new piece of sod and lay it down where the divot was. When you get up the next morning, it's fresh grass there. And of course, you don't use that same area again, but you don't see a repaired divot. That's why you never see that. And a tee box always looks pristine at Augusta.
I tell people, you go to Augusta National for the first time and your expectations are already very high.
Yeah.
But reality exceeds your expectations, which doesn't happen very often. I mean, I
went in 95 when Ben Crenshaw won. Harvey Penny passed away that year. And we went to the practice round that day in the par 3 contest. And Augusta National, I would say, is one of the only places I've ever been to where my expectations were too low.
Yeah.
The course is so much more beautiful. And you talked to it earlier, the undulation of that golf course, nobody has a clue. When we played it, we walked it backwards. So we actually came up number 10 and not went down number 10. It's a 10-story climb from green to tee box on number 10. That's how it's a 450-yard par 4. Guys are hitting sand wedges in, because it's a 300-yard tee shot that rolls another 70 yards.
Yeah, you don't pick up on that on television, the undulations and the elevation changes. But it's like I said, it's the hardest walk in all of golf.
It truly is.
That and maybe Kapalua, but
I don't even know. Do they allow golf carts on the course?
I'm not a member there, so I couldn't tell you.
There are only 2 PGA Tour members that are members of the club.
Well, Jack Nicklaus
and John Harris. I think he's an old touring pro.
Yeah.
But those are the only. I figured Tiger was a member, but Tiger is not a member of the club.
The funny story was Mark O'Meara, after he won, called the Augusta National and said, "Hey, I want to bring my dad to play." And they said, "Well, Mr. O'Meara, we'll try to find a member to play with you and your father." And he says, "Well, I'm a member now, right?" And he said, "No, sir. Just because you win the Masters doesn't mean you're a member." So I don't know if he got his dad on or not. I'm sure he probably did, but he thought he was a member automatically because he won the Masters.
Yeah.
And people may not know this, but you can only take the green jacket off property if you're the current champion for 1 year.
1 year, yeah.
After that, it stays in your locker. And if you win 6 majors like Nicklaus, you still only have 1 jacket. They don't give you 6 different jackets. It's the same jacket. They just go get it out of your locker and put it back on you.
The jackets were first designated in 1937. The club purchased them from a company called Brooks Clothing Company out of New York. They bought the green jackets so the members would wear the green jackets so patrons could come in and don't call them an angry mob, or you'll be banned from the Masters for life.
You can't call them fans or a gallery.
You can call them fans. They are patrons is all you can call them, or you will be banned. Ask Gary McCord about that. But the jackets were first purchased in 1937 and given to members so that when patrons came up and wanted information about the club, they would recognize the green jackets. That's how the green jacket came to be. The first green jacket awarded to a champion was 1949 to Sam Snead. He was the first actual champion of the Masters to receive a green jacket, hence the birth of the award of the most coveted piece of clothing in all of sports, the green jacket. That's how that came about. So,
all right, real quick, Brian. Ludwig Aberg is plus 2,500.
Yeah, he's a guy that you might put a few dollars on. Now he might go out and shoot $1 million, but talent-wise and the way he's, his form currently is pretty good.
How about for first timers? You've got Wyndham Clark, who's plus 1,500. He's actually the only first timer with better odds than Aberg right now.
Defending U.S. Open champion.
Yeah, he's a U.S. Open champion. But like Steve said, it's his first trip to the Masters. So, the odds of him, win, place, or show, maybe place or show, but I wouldn't put any money on any of the first timers to win, unless you want to throw a couple bucks down on a long shot. But
Brian, aside from take odds out, who's due to win this year? I mean, who's paid their dues? Who do we want?
Rory
who do you want to see?
due.
Pardon?
Rory McIlroy's due.
Yeah. I think Koepka's due.
Yeah. He's healthy and playing well, and you mentioned this earlier. He doesn't really care too much about the week in and week out results, but when he gets to the majors, it's a different deal.
Yeah,
he's a tough hombre when it comes to the major championships, and so I would expect him to be in contention. Xander Schauffele is another guy that I think could win this week. He's a really good player, but is due to win a major.
Hey, Brian, I got a question for you. And you've covered this thing all the time. What's the most important club to have in your bag at Augusta National? I mean, some courses it's a driver, some it's a putter, some it's a mid-iron or a wedge. If you go to Augusta, what is the one club you want to be playing incredibly well with at that club?
The putter, obviously, because of the greens and the severity of the greens. But it's a second shot golf course. I mean, there's room to spray it a little bit off the tee, and without the deep rough, that doesn't really penalize you if you miss the fairway. It does a little. It does when you talk about the greens, and you can't spin it as much because they've grown the rough a little bit longer, and spinning it is critical on those greens, or you're going to end up in a bad spot. But I would say your putter, and then it's a second shot golf course, so your iron play has got to be spot on, because it's not, because of those greens, you've got little areas on those greens where you can land it to give you a realistic birdie opportunity. And if you miss that little area, you've got a really difficult to putt. So it's a second shot golf course.
Yeah, and those greens usually stemp about 12.5 to 13.
Yeah,
in that range. It's like putting on glass, from what I'm told. Having never had the opportunity to go play it, whether I have my clubs or not, on a given Monday, I would have gone and just bought a Cameron putter and showed up and just putted my way around the course. The course is manicured so fine you probably can't putt your way around that course.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And we've played after majors before.
Yeah, we played the Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
I could never. I remember that adventure. The fun part was Chris Bierman was in the group in front of us, so that was great. But the rough, I couldn't believe the rough at Pebble when we played it the Monday after. I remember Tiger's shot on, I think it was number 6, the par 5. He had a 7-iron in from about 200 yards in the deep rough, sticks it to about 5-10 feet, and.
Yeah.
Then I remember John Daly sitting on the range hitting deer from 200, 300 yards.
That's right.
Getting yelled at by every tour player for hitting deer, but he's got the accuracy from 300 yards to hit deer who are grazing down at the end of the. Yeah, there you go. I got mine too. Yeah, mine.
Tiger signed flag that we both got. He sat on the set next to me and signed my flag, and I had him sign yours.
Yep, I got Jack and Tiger too. So great memorabilia. And the chocolate chip cookies from the Days Inn. Can't beat them.
Those weren't bad either.
We ate a few of those that week.
It wasn't the Days Inn. We didn't stay at the Days Inn.
Oh, what was it?
I don't know, whatever hotel gives you the warm cookies when you come in.
I thought it was the Days Inn, but I could be wrong.
Those are like $12 a night.
Grilled calamari. Gotta love the grilled calamari there in Cannery Row.
What's the name of that? Oh, what is the name of that hotel?
Doubletree?
Yeah, the Doubletree right there on the wharf in Monterey.
All right, well, the Days Inn, Doubletree, it sounds kind of alike. So, all right, so in our last few minutes here, Live versus PGA. What's you know more than well, you don't know more than I do, but you're the resident expert.
If that's true, Brian's the first guest we've ever had that didn't know more than you do. But go ahead.
where are we at with that mess right now? Are they going to come to resolution, or are they working things out? Or
I would think, just my speculation, I think you'll see some sort of an agreement, some sort of an investment from PIF, what is it called? Something investment fund from the Saudis into the PGA Tour. Now they've already got private investors that have come on board, a bunch of owners in professional sports. Fenway Sports is one of them. But I think you're going to see, because Tiger and Rory and a couple of others flew to the Bahamas recently, met with the Grand Poobah, or whatever his title is, of Saudi Arabia, the guy that's in charge of the PIF. And I think you're going to see an investment that'll bring everybody back together again, at least in some capacity. And that's why you're hearing Rory soften his stance, and he's got every right to be upset at the PGA Tour. I mean, he turned his back on $500 million, and that money is not spread out over 4 years or whatever the length of your contract is. That money went straight into Phil Mickelson's account. It went straight into Dustin Johnson's account. So you wake up the next day and you got $500 million in your account. So he's got every right to be upset with the tour. He says, wait a minute, I was in your corner. I stood by you because you kept telling me this is a bad thing. Stay with me. And now we're going to welcome all these guys back. And they've got all this, I turned my back on $500 million. And now we're going to let all these guys back in. I don't know if they're going to get paid, reparations, I think, as you called it on the phone yesterday.
Yeah.
But
he's in California now, Brian. So that's what happens.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, they talk reparations out here all the time.
That's kind of what I meant, Steve. But
I am not welcomed out here in California too much. Trust me.
You're a minority, that's for sure.
I'm a conservative Republican in a liberal state.
I'll tell you, he's less and less a conservative Republican over the last 7 years that I've known him each year.
It grinds on you. It grinds on you. Yeah, and the same thing, Brian. I know there's been rumblings, and John Rahm has even alluded to it in his press conference, how he's sad now. I mean, he missed the Phoenix Open. He went to ASU, played his college golf there. The Phoenix Open was always a big tournament for him. He talks about Hawaii, missing that tournament because his family always did a family vacation out there. So it just seems to me that this is a great example of where people should keep politics out of sports. The beef against LIV Golf seemed to be the political views of Saudi Arabia, which are not in line with what the United States views are. These are just a bunch of golfers that want to play against each other and play together in big tournaments. I think it's hurt the PGA. I mean, I watched the San Antonio Open. I didn't know, but maybe 3 or 4 players playing in that tournament. I mean, I'd heard of them, but there was no brand names, because now the PGA Tour is going to this, what they call them, mega tournaments, or they have some special name tied to them, where they're trying to match purses that the LIV Golf people are giving out every week. $3.6 million to the first place.
And they're limited fields. They're only for the top players in the
70, 80 players. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like the LA Open went to that at Ribby. So
it was
went to a limited field event.
And it's too bad, because I like, the ones they're eliminating cuts at those events, which I don't like. I mean, it's one great thing about golf is it's a meritocracy. It's the only meritocracy in all of sports. If you don't make cuts, you're not getting paid.
You're not getting paid.
And when you eliminate that, you eliminate some of what is very attractive to golf fans.
What is the difficulty, Brian, in this fiasco between these two, of starting a ranking system for LIV golfers, and why can they not be included in the world golf rankings? I mean, they're actually probably playing a more concentrated version of better golfers all along the way.
It's ridiculous that they're not included. There needs to be some other form of ranking, because it's not working. And these majors, the Masters wants these 13 LIV players in the field. And the PGA Championship wants the best field that they can come on. They want the TV ratings. They want people to watch. It'd be, if you win the Masters this week and those 13 live golfers were not in the field, it'd be like winning, and you can relate to this, the Indy 500 during the split.
Right.
Yeah, you won the Indy 500, but who'd you beat?
Who'd you beat?
Buddy was here.
Yeah.
You know, so
it'd be the old asterisk victory.
Right.
You know, there's an asterisk by your name because, you know, as there will be in women's college basketball from here on, because you didn't play a team that Caitlin Clark was playing on. So you're not really, you know, worthy.
But these majors want the best field possible for their television ratings and for their event. So,
well, it seems to me that, and Mike and I talked about this prior to coming on, that of the four majors, I mean, the Augusta members run the Masters, not the PGA Tour.
Right.
The U.S. Open's run by the USGA, not the PGA Tour. The British Open's run by the R&A, not the PGA Tour. The PGA is actually run by PGA of America, which is the club pros, not the PGA Tour, because those are now two separate entities. It used to be in the olden days, the PGA Tour was an offshoot of PGA of America. It just was their touring pros. Now the PGA of America and the PGA Tour are two separate entities all their own. So the PGA Tour doesn't control any of the majors at all.
No.
Which is why I think you're seeing the open fields and them not saying, we're not getting in this mess. You know, we have a tournament to run. We want the best players, as you said. We want the best players. It's a shame that the Players Championship doesn't allow that. But then the Players Championship is the major put on, the fifth major, as it's called, put on by the PGA Tour.
Yeah, but you win the Players, and you didn't beat Dustin Johnson. You didn't beat Brooks Koepka. You didn't beat Cam Smith, who was the defending
John Rahm.
You didn't beat John Rahm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won a ton of money, and you got a nice trophy, but in the back of your mind, you're going, you know, I didn't beat the best players in the world this week.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your mind, do you see resolution at the end of this season?
Well, I don't know.
This is the non-Ryder Cup year, isn't it? So there's no Ryder Cup this year.
Right.
It's a President's Cup. But so they have this year really because the Ryder Cup is the gem. You talk to any PGA Tour player and they'll tell you playing in the Ryder Cup is the most gut-wrenching thing they all do.
I hope that there's some sort of a resolution because golf fans want to see the best players in the world playing against each other. And there's some great stories out there. You know, you're seeing guys that, you know, like last week, who won in San Antonio? Went to a play. Oh, the skinny kid.
Yeah.
Bataille.
Yeah. Good for him. Qualified for the Masters.
Yeah. I mean, there were some great stories out there and they can tell their stories and they can become stars, but you want to see Rory and you want to see Brooks and you want to see DeChambeau and you want to see the best players in the world playing against each other. And now we're only going to get that at the majors. Yeah,
well, right at the same time though, right on CW or whatever, I don't know, shows it in Indianapolis. You've got the Doral Open going on with Dustin Johnson, Brooks, Sergio, Phil. You got all the Live Golf members playing at the same time, which if they'd been on an equal network, I'd like to see the ratings for that. Being on the CW, I'm sure they're not going to get the ratings that the PGA Tour is going to get. But I think it's hurting both sports, both of them, to not merge and get together and get these players playing together again in some form or fashion.
Yeah, no question. And speaking of ratings, I'm going to go on a quick rant here. Everybody's making a big deal of the women's championship game outdrew the men's championship game. The women were on network TV. The men were on
PBS. Yeah. What is that all about?
That is a big, big difference to be on.
Yeah, that's true.
ABC.
The women were also on at 3:00 during a Sunday afternoon.
Not at 9:20 Eastern time, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But also the fact is this: UConn and Purdue, you kind of knew who was going to win.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, UConn destroyed everybody.
Well, I mean, the games were very similar, where you had two teams that were physically dominant over the other team. There wasn't much the other team could do about it. I mean, LSU and Purdue, or not LSU, but Iowa and Purdue were not physically big enough with their guards or athletic enough to compete. And I mean, the 18 million is a huge number because it's women's basketball. But the problem is the 18 million is because of Caitlin Clark. Next year, they'll go back to 4 or 5 million people watching their championship game. The WNBA is not going to have an influx of viewers. You'll have a ton of people watch Indiana Fever games. You'll have a ton of people go to Indiana Fever games, but nobody gives two shits about the Phoenix Mercury playing the Las Vegas Liberty or New York Liberty or whatever the hell it is, because it is still basically junior high boys basketball.
There's no question. And the interesting thing is here, because the Indiana Fever are going to draft Caitlin Clark number 1 in the draft. What I hear the other day, 70% of all the season tickets that have been sold so far are to people in Iowa. I mean, it's what, a 5-hour drive from Des Moines?
Yeah, but when you live in Iowa, going to Indianapolis is a big deal.
It is.
There's less cornfields per capita, I think.
Hey, I'm going to tell you what, Iowa's got some of the best corn-fed beef you'll ever taste in your life.
In West Des Moines, we used to do a Champions Tour event in West Des Moines, where Caitlin Clark is from. It's a pretty cool area.
Yeah.
Area.
Is that where John Deere is at Peoria?
No, the John Deere is in the Quad Cities.
Quad Cities.
We did a Champions Tour event in West Des Moines. It was cool.
Well, they're going to treat Caitlin Clark like absolute crap anyways, because she's not.
They already are.
She's not black and she's not a lesbian. And I think the lesbian thing is the bigger thing they're upset about, because I've seen multiple straight black women who played in the WNBA say that they were treated like shit the entire time we were there. So this is basically, the other thing that gets me is now we got to hear about Dawn Staley possibly coaching an NBA team. I mean, that's in a show of itself, because this is the thing.
Let's save that for a show in itself. Let's get back and wrap up.
Yeah, but I think me and Brian would be better doing the show.
I don't, we'll have Brian back on when we want to rip the WNBA.
It's
Brian,
not ripping the WNBA.
Let's end it with this. Let me give you some questions here.
Okay.
How many bridges are there at Augusta, and who are they named after?
Oh, geez.
I know there's the Hogan Bridge.
Hey, Brian, all Steve's prep for shows is finding out fun, quirky facts.
A lot of these I already knew
about. I know, sure you did, but that's why you're reading from your.
No, there are 3 bridges, Brian: the Hogan, the Nelson, and the Saracen Bridge.
Okay.
How many people does the Crow's Nest hold?
I've been in the Crow's Nest. I think 5?
5. Good job, Brian. Way to go. 5 holds 5. How many cabins are there on Butler and on the Augusta National Grounds?
Well, you got Butler cabin, and you've got the Eisenhower cabin.
There's no Purdue cabin.
3 or 4, maybe?
10.
10, really? That many?
Yeah, there are 10 cabins. How many presidents have been members at Augusta National?
Eisenhower. I couldn't tell you.
Eisenhower, the only one. There you go. All right, I'll get off the fun facts. I got 25 of them here, and you won't get them.
Thank God. That'll be tomorrow's show, guys. It's not.
All right,
but
wrap it up, Brian. What do we need to know about what should we expect this week?
Well, I'm hoping the weather's good. I would think the winner is going to come from one of 3 people: Rory, Brooks Koepka, or Scotty Scheffler. I'd take those 3 against the field.
Rory, Koepka, or Scheffler?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rahm defending is going to be tough. That's always hard to do.
I like John Rahm, and it wouldn't surprise me, but Scheffler's playing great. Koepka is just different at majors, and Rory, I hope, is due.
Yeah, you like to see who is the other player that's short one major too. There's another one out there. I can't think who it is off the top of my head. There's one other player who's got Jordan, 3 of them.
Jordan Spieth?
Spieth's got, but his is the PGA or something.
Yeah, his is the PGA.
Yeah, the Masters doesn't come into play here, so.
And he's not playing great, so. But there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of people that, Phil's one of those guys. Phil Mickelson, not playing well, but when they get to Augusta, things change. I mean, Freddie Couples was that way. He may not be playing well, but when he gets to Augusta, it's a switch just flips.
No, they were talking on live from the Masters. They were talking that everybody really thinks Freddie will make the cut again this year.
I hope so.
He just, yeah, I do too. I mean, he's not in contention, but just to make the cut, he's one ahead of Tiger in terms of cuts made during the days he's played in the tournament. Tiger's never missed a cut when he's played.
Well, and that's honestly, that's the easiest cut to make at Augusta National. So it's, they've done away a lot with. It used to be you would have the Gabe Brewers of the world still playing, and the guys that are in their 60s and 70s because they could play until for life. But they've kind of done away with that. But it's still pretty easy cut to make within 10 shots.
We still got Nicklaus and Player firing it off first. Are they still doing it? It was Nicklaus.
Nicklaus, Player, and Watson. Tom Watson.
Oh, Watson's joining them this year?
Well, he did last year as well.
Did he? Okay. Yeah. They never show that on TV hardly.
Oh, they do. They do. I remember one year we went out the night before and had way too many margaritas, and we were going to plan on being out there the next morning for the traditional start with, and it was Sarazen and Nelson and Nicholas. It was Nicholas Palmer, and I think it might have been Sarazen then. But we woke up in the morning and all of us were bleary eyed. It was like, oh, heck with it, we're not going. It'll be on TV. We'll take it off TV.
Yeah. Too many margaritas. That must have been when Ritzy and Jen were with you. And
Jennifer Mills.
Tom. What was Tom's last name?
Tom Nettles.
Tom Nettles. Yeah. Tom Nettles, Mike Ritz, and Jennifer. What was Jennifer? What was Jennifer's last name?
Mills.
Jennifer Mills. Yeah. Yeah. I partied with those three, and holy cow, I thought I could drink. Mini Christmas. Then you got Lerner over in the corner waxing poetically about something golf oriented, trying to be the next Peter Allister or whoever. So
yeah, those were good times.
They were good times. Anything else we need to know?
Nope. Enjoy Masters Week. It's always great. And I'm loving the fact that we now have 18-hole coverage of the final round, because it used to be every day. The first time I went to the Masters, I never will forget it. Like 3:00, there's massive exodus of people leaving the exit, going out the exits, and I'm going, what is going on? I said, well, TV's coming on. They've been here all morning, and now they're going to their hotel or back home or wherever to watch the TV coverage. Okay, but now it's 18-hole coverage, and we don't have to wait till the back, because they didn't used to come on the air till
3:00. 3:00 local time, and it usually was only a couple hours. That's all you get. You get 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, you get maybe 4 or 5 hours at most.
You never saw the back
18 holes.
Yeah, you never saw the back 9, and now, luckily we have 18-hole coverage of the Masters.
Well, ESPN Plus carries a lot of it now too. They carry
Amen Corner and featured groups and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll pick all that up starting tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, Thursday.
Yeah,
they'll have featured groups and things like that where you can watch that, which is great. That's my question. What is the Masters' mentality, you being a TV guy, of limiting their television coverage? I mean, you watch the U.S. Open, the PGA, Sawgrass even. You see wire to wire coverage from 8 in the morning until sunsets.
Why they don't do that anymore? They don't do it anymore because you can go on their website. You can go on masters.org or masters.com or whatever it is, and watch Amen Corner. The groups go through there, featured groups, so you can watch it all day. It didn't used to be that way, but they want to drive everybody to watch on their website, and then when they come on the air, I mean they're allowing 4 or 5 hours of coverage. I think it's like 5 hours, which is good.
Yeah, I remember when I went in '95. I remember the one thing was the line to get in the damn gift shop was longer than the line to get into anything else, because they only sell Masters gear during that week, and you have to buy it on property.
Yeah.
Unless now you can hawk it off of eBay.
All right, we have a question that's really stupid. Who was better, Bagger Vance or Bobby Jones? I don't even know why they left out Happy Gilmore, Steve.
It's stupid. Although they are remaking a Happy Gilmore movie.
Yeah, They'll mess that up too, probably. Isn't Bob Barker dead?
Yeah, and so is Chubb.
And Apollo Creed.
Yeah, he's dead too. So I don't know what they're going to do.
I'm waiting for them to remake Tin Cup.
That was a good ass movie. That was the Kevin Costner, wasn't it?
Oh
yeah. Brian gets a residual check for what? 15 cents?
No, the cheapest one, the smallest one I got was 55 cents.
55 cents.
I got one the other day for like $34. I mean, that's 25 years later, 30 years.
That's
$34 you didn't have.
Every time I get
Lisa got it. Trust me. Lisa took that check.
Every time I get one of those checks, I wonder what Kevin Costner's residual looks like. I don't think it's 55.
Probably
no.
Not
there's a 30. Yeah, well, yeah. There's 34 plus a heck of a lot more. So I didn't like the way they portrayed him in that movie, because at the beginning of the movie they make Tin Cup look like a total idiot, and then by the end he's a soothsayer and a very philosophical.
As you would tell me, Steve, it's only a movie,
Yeah,
so chill out.
Wasn't the best golf movie out there.
All right, Brian. Let's let Brian tell us where everybody can find him, follow him on the internet. Go ahead.
Well,
Brian.
you can follow me on Twitter at Brian Hammons. That's probably the best thing. If you need if anybody out there wants any golf content, you can reach me at shortgrassmedia.com.
All right, guys, make sure you check out shortgrassmedia.com. As always, you can follow Steve Risley on X at srisley34. Steve, have you gotten any more followers in the last 5 years?
A bunch. Yeah, I'm way up. I'm in the 4 figures now. All you got to do is say one negative thing about Mike Woodson, and you go through the roof.
Well, how could you say anything positive about Mike Woodson?
All
right, we're going to wrap the show up.
I just noticed since I got negative about Mike Woodson a little bit this year, I have gotten no mail from the IU basketball team.
Gee, there's
I used to always get letters and envelopes from them and posters, calendar posters and things. I haven't gotten jack crap. I think I'm blackballed.
Well, you think maybe they spent so much NIL money, they don't have enough money to print out calendars anymore. Too bad they can't get a guard that can shoot with that money. All right, guys. We are good. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Grilling Truth. I've got like 27,000 followers more than Steve, but
you're better than me.
All right, guys. Make sure you check out Brian Hammons' content and then just ignore Steve. But right now, let me remind you, if you want to bet on the Masters, go to BetMGM. You can click on the link in the description down below in YouTube to do that. But for now, guys, for Brian, Steve, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening.